Okay, so this is Winter's setup. I did do a spot, I was going to do a spot clean, but she wrecks her place, so I decided to sort of full clean and kind of explain why I do what I will do. So the first thing is Winter is in a really useful bin, 160 litres that you can get from Argos. It does need to be filled to about 20 centimetres of substrate before it is your bare minimum. It's just over that, which needs to be at least 4,000 centimetres square, so that's 80 by 50 centimetres in general terms, but this is slightly narrower, but it's longer as well. She loves it. I think this is a fantastic bin for a dwarf, and Winter is a dwarf robo. She has half, because she's a robo, she has half of her enclosure as sand, as you can see there, and it is approximately 15 centimetres deep, and then she has her substrate for the other half. And if you can see the things on the floor, just because cage cleaning's messy business. Now usually here for me you would see this layered. I use a combination of Gypsy Original, Hugo Hemp, and this has some paper bedding in it as well. I think it's Katie Clean and Cozy, and a bit of hay. But one of the things I've noticed with Winter since I've had her, and this is one of the reasons I decided to redo it, other than the fact that she's a total diva and she requires a lot of upkeep, and she loves her enclosure. She's really busy in it, she's really happy in it, but you have to keep the enrichment going. And she shows no bad behaviours or unnatural behaviours at all, but you know, I think she'll enjoy a bit of a revamp. I've gotten to know a bit better. So one of the things is I pressed her substrate, I think, a bit too deep, too tight, and whilst that would have held tunnels better for her, at the same time she was struggling to burrow in it. She did try a burrow and then she kind of stopped. So one of the things I want to encourage now is the burrowing. So what I've done actually is I took the top of her substrate out, and some of it's under there, because that has a smell in it, and so I popped that in a box, and then I pulled out about a quarter of the bedding that was in here. So I literally took it out, threw it away, and then I puffed all of this up and did a slight press, but not very much, and then topped it back with her old bedding so it's got her smell in it. Her little corner house there, you'll see it's full of bedding. She stuffed that full. She likes to dig under there, so I really wanted. So what I did is I took the house with the bedding and just took it out. This enclosure was done not long ago, so it's all clean. I would never have done a normal full. I would have done what I did with Bullet. And if you see with Bullets, let me just move this, you'll see what I mean about the lasagna layers. So you can see I have the layers with hay in between, a bit of tissue, just to help hold the tunnels. He's not digging either, but he hasn't shown any interest in digging. So he's next on that. But with her, she has shown an interest. So yeah, I've messed up the layers, but the hay's still in there. And basically, the more she's going to move around it, there's still paper in there, and it's still going to hold the tunnels. It's just not in layers. And so it doesn't make that pretty little effect there. So I have moved some things about her, getting to know her. She used to have a straw thing here that used to sit a bit like I've got over there. I don't know if you can see, it's mostly covered, but there is a little sort of a straw mat. Now to divide this, all I used was a piece of cardboard. So if I lift this up for you, which I'll show you in a minute anyway, you'll see that's cardboard, right? And then I put heavy books on this side, and then I filled the substrate up when I did it. So the heavy books kind of held the carpet up. So yeah, that jar in there, she loves. I think every dwarf should have it. What is in there is something called, it's a Getsu packet. Where is it? What have I done with it? I got it from Getsu. It's a JR Farm, and it's that. It's all in German, and I got it from Getsu. This is amazing stuff. I think I love giving my animals anyway busy jars and busy boxes. So I put that in there, and then I mix in some food and some stuff and some treats, and literally, and there's a dandelion root in there for her to chew on, if you can see right there. And they literally just love it, and they go in there and they can forage for it, and both her and Mr. enjoy it, and it's just a kilner jar that. So yeah, really easy thing to do. You could also just get some cork substrate. I've used this for her, the coconut terrain, before, just for different texts. I've used that before, but I like this one because it's got some herbs in it as well, so you know, it just gives her a bit more of a whatever. And then I just pop a little bendy bridge. Make sure all bendy bridge, if there's any gaps in them, and this one's already been filled, you either fill it in here, filled naturally with sand, but you also fill it with moss. Moss works really well, but you do want it, or cover it with moss. So over here she's got some flax sprays, also got these from Getsu. I've got some more coming. She loves these are great, and they make them think about their food and look for it. She will never reach this one, but she'll be able to reach these. So there's some oat sprays here, there's some flax sprays. She'll climb up here and get to these ones, which is the plan. This back here is one of my big tricks. So this is just mostly pretty, but she does eat off this, so she quite enjoys these as well, as does Mr. over there, Mr. Bullet. So if you look down there, you'll see this is just a roll. If you Google or search on Amazon, Trixie hay bale, these will come up. Now this is the pumpkin one, and they both love it. Bullet has basically pulled all the pumpkins off it, but she hasn't quite as much. But it's also, the hay bale itself is really good for their teeth. So hamsters' teeth grow continually, and it's a real problem if they don't use them. So you really need to provide them, and they love these. I've just got a new one. I've got a beetroot and parsnip for Mr. Magoo, and for when my new hamster Radish arrives in a few weeks' time. But as you can see down there, she's actually had a good go at it, and that just works on their teeth. They don't need to eat hay. Hay is not something that they should be eating. They can have a chew on it and a little bit of eat on it. If you use any hay, I like the Black Forest hay from Robo personally, but what you want to do is do a scrunch test. So you want to scrunch it up in your hand, and if anything pokes in, can't use it. I've got ready grass. I don't like it for my hamsters. I find it too hard. If it pokes your hand, it can poke their cheek pouch. It can cause an abscess. I saw one recently. Not nice. Down there is a whimsy. It's a dog whimsy. Only please use whimsies. Don't use anything else. And it's good for their teeth. It's totally hamster safe, but no other dog chews, just whimsies. Okay. In the corner here, you'll see a clay hide. There's a little bit of sand in there. She may use it as a toilet. I've also got a little piece of dried chicken in there, which she loves. I've put it in there just because this is new in here. It was somewhere else in the cage and didn't have sand in it, but I wanted to use it just to keep her cool. This is a beetroot covered stick, which again, chewing, and they enjoy it. This is a little puzzle where they have to kind of work at opening it. And both of mine are able to do it. So I've got some sunflower seeds in there that she likes, and I've got in there just a bit of bunny food, which is a new brand I'm using. I'm not overly keen on it. Interesting to see if she enjoys it. It's not my favourite, and my Robos are very happy with their food. But I thought a little bit of variety won't do it any harm at all. There's a half a walnut, so I was going to do the same I did for Bullet, but unfortunately this one broke in half, so she's got a half a walnut there, and I've put a half a walnut somewhere else for her. She has her sunflower head, which, now here's the thing, right, she's had this in her enclosure for goodness, since she's been here. I don't know if that's 3 weeks, a month. I think it's about a month. She's been here for a month, so she's had that in there for a month. And she hasn't touched it until the last couple of days. So don't give up. Some of these things hamsters will never do. You provide them, you go, oh, they don't like it. Well, keep it in there, and they might just like it. So that's that there. This hide over here is a Robo hide. It's from, well, Robo, and it's made of clay, so it's really cooling. And it's like a cave. So dwarf hamsters in particular, Roboroskis, they live in sand. And so these are great. These are nice and cool for summer. She's actually made a nest under there and brought tissue paper from the top of her hide, from a cage in her hides, and she's brought it down in there. And she also keeps her food in there. So that's her stash, which has now been cleaned out. So she's going to have to redo it. But I think that's actually quite good for her. On top of here, I've just got a little bendy bridge just to, she can get up there, she can forage. She doesn't really use that much. She just sometimes use it. I've got a few treats on there to encourage her to go up there. It looks like a lot, but she won't eat all of them. She'll stash a lot of them. So there, that, and then the bendy bridge, and I've got some forage. As she comes out of the forage, the bendy bridge, this is new for her. There's quite a lot of forage there. The other thing that's new is because I haven't got her, she's quite used to being here now, so we've kept things open, but so I can see her a bit more and give her a bit more space. But one of the things, and I've taken one of her hides out of here that she never used, and I've replaced her with that one there. One of the things that I've done with her is add food here, and that's because they love their sand, and the food in the front will probably make her feel a bit safe. Hamsters love their food, so that will encourage her to use that area and feel safe in it, hopefully, and distract her. So one of the new things is this half hide. So this half hide was always there, but it was in this area here of the cage. So I've put this here. I like putting half hides right on my ledges for Roboroskis and dwarfs. So because coming up this bridge and all this area here feels quite open, so if she goes from her wheel, which by the way for a dwarf hamster needs to be a minimum of 21 centimeters. Most people have smaller ones. This is a Getsu one. It's great. It's totally silent. Highly recommended for a dwarf hamster, but maybe not a Robo, because they run so fast. As you can see, also stones in the front there. So the stones are because their nails grow continually and they can actually curl over. So you really need to be providing things that are going to trim their nails. So sand does that very well. So do stones. So stones do that, and a few other things which we'll go through as we go through. Funny enough, that hay bale probably does a little bit of that. Walking on any clay hides does that. So terracotta clay also very good for that. And that's why I recommend if you're doing stuff like any coconut substrate like Bullet has. He's got a terracotta bowl, and that one is 16 centimeter Trixie, and you can search for it on Amazon, and it's only about £6, and it'll last forever, like literally forever. Anyway, so she's got, this is just a half cork log. I've put some topping on, which I'll talk about in a bit, and she can literally dart. So with dwarves, especially young dwarves, you want to keep them feeling safe. So you'll see there's loads of hide opportunities here. She'll go behind her wheel here. I can guarantee you, in fact I might need to have to move this wheel a little bit forward so she'll get behind there, because she likes going behind the wheel. Lots of them do. So she'll go behind her wheel and she'll climb up her bale there, and then she'll come across. And I don't mind that. You'll find they squeeze through a lot, so I just try to make it a bit safe. I mean, that's still a little small space, but she'll be able to get through there because she's a Robo. So under this hide, you'll see I've put some of that cork substrate I showed you earlier, and that also helps to trim nails. Walking on this will help to trim nails. I've topped it with some forage, so it's like just it's very pretty, but it's a flour mixture that I got off Etsy from Tiny Hamster Paws Company. And a few of these are like just little bits of her sprays that have fallen off from before that I've kept, so I've just done that. A lot of these sprays were kept from previously. So she's got here some, I think this is a type of millet, I think, or amaranth. I'm so rubbish at these. She's got her little winter spray holder that I got made for her, which is pretty. There's quite a lot of little rosebuds around it. She's got quite a rosy kind of, you see on her grapevine little piece, she's got some rosebuds. She quite likes chewing on them, and she's a girl, so you know. She's got a seagrass hide. That's just a normal cheap one. That's a little hut that she uses sometimes. and in it it's got, she doesn't need a huge amount, but she just uses it. I'm hoping she's going to start using it for a bit more, maybe digging. Always trying to get hides that have bottoms that are open, because they will dig underneath them and make hides. So I really push for that as much as possible. Sometimes you do have one or two that aren't, but for the most part. Next to it over here, I have put, so she's got some millet. She loves red millet, but I don't have any left. I've got some coming soon, so she'll get a piece. But that is a tissue roll. It only fits for dwarfs, and that just goes into the substrate to encourage her to go down and start digging. We call it a tunnel starter. And like I said, in there's another piece of walnut. I try and put a little treat in some of these, just because it encourages them to go into it the first time, and then they start to use it. She's got a seagrass roll, so she can either come out through here. There's another little hole down here, which she can come out of, or she can come out through the other end over there. Again, good for nails, good for different texture, and that gives lots of enrichment. As the basis on here, as my topper, I used a little bit of JR Farms. They've got sort of like they call it a herb garden, but it's a lot of oats and stuff like that. So there's a bit of that on there, and then there's a bit of different types of. So this is one type of like flower, herby stuff. Down here is another one which I got, can't remember where from. This is a different one. You'll see it's mostly yellow. So it's a bit of a mixture, really. Okay, sorry, you're gonna get sick looking at this. So down here, she can come out of here, and then she can go straight into a little coconut hide. So that's new for her. This is, and she can climb on top of it and forage and do her little thing. This is a mushroom nutcracker, and what I do is I put a treat in there with other foragey stuff, a couple of treats, and then I screw it down, because this comes off obviously, and then you screw it down, and then I stuff it full of stuff again, so she actually has to really pull it apart to get to it and work for her food. This is just moss. You get it off Getsu. And underneath this is a really soft substrate that you can get from, she likes it for her bed. So she will literally work her way under this and start pulling the bedding out and put it into her nests. So that also gives her an activity to do. It's just something she enjoys doing. I've decided to keep it there. And again, there's a toilet paper hole there. That's a tunnel starter. Now, I've kept this hide exactly here because that's where water is, and you'll see rocks again for her nails, but this also works for nails. I'm not the most keen on these hides. Firstly, she actually needs a multi-chamber, but I haven't wanted to completely change it yet, just because that's the one place I know she starts her tunnels and burrows, so I wanted to keep it. But these do, although they're great, and you can get them off Amazon if you've got a dwarf, they're absolutely brilliant for budget reasons, but I would recommend that you look on RoboPet and get some like a multi-chamber hide. Her big one doesn't fit in here, but you could get a 2 multi-chamber hide, which if you see in Bullet's video, he's got his water bottle on a 2 multi-chamber hide with granite, which is great for their nails. And it mimics their natural burrows, so it will start them digging a bit better, and they're generally quite a bit happier. Usually I have the rocks right next to it, but here. Now this is a water bottle. Lots of people talk about this. They wonder if their hamsters would be able to use them. You fill it up. All of this is filled with water, in fact, and as they drink it goes down. They'll never finish it. You'll need to keep replacing it, so it doesn't go old. But I've never had a hamster not learn how to use it. It doesn't have a problem where firstly, they don't arch their heads up. So a hamster naturally would reach down to drink, whereas with a bottle, they reach up and they hold on, and that curves their spine. Okay, so that's that reason there. Then that's about it really. So what you want to think about when you get their cage going is lots of dart spaces to keep them safe. So dart in there from an open area. Before, I had a big hide here and I had seagrass here, so I couldn't actually see and she felt safe. But because she's settled now, I'm starting to open it up a little bit, but still with lots of things to do. I sprinkle all the food all over, which means that they have to, and there's some worms in the sand, there's some little apple bits there, just means that they really have to work for their food. That's a carrot stick there, by the way, I didn't mention that. So yeah, so just all of that is, look for dart spaces. If she comes out here and she ends up here and feels open, she can dart in here, she can dart in here, she can dart through there, she's got dart space here, she's got a hide there, she's got a hide there. She will feel completely safe in here. I recommend, the reason they have to have a 21 centimeter wheel is minimum, and you can go bigger, but you can't go smaller, is because they are, they bend their backs. Anything smaller than that, they'll bend their backs. It doesn't look like it. The other thing is they can't reach full stride on a smaller wheel. So it may look like their backs aren't bent, but because they can't stretch out to reach full stride, because this almost looks like it's hitting their nose, they can't exercise properly. And a wheel is a must, and the right size one. It absolutely damages their backs horrendously badly to have a too small wheel. I cannot stress that enough. It hurts them. It causes them back pain, but they will continue to use it because they have an instinctive need to use it, because they run miles every single night. The reason their cage needs to be so big is because they're busy animals. So my animal, she's got loads to do and she's constantly busy. She's digging in the sand, and then she's in there, and then she's trying to figure her way down there, and then she'll squeeze herself down there, and then she's in there stashing her food, which is a normal behavior, and then she's up here and she's in properly like checking underneath beds, and at night she's going in there and pulling out bedding and stashing it into her hide somewhere, and pulling things out of there and chewing on this. She's constantly busy, and this has got enough food now. I mean, she could easily survive more than a week on this, but she will get, and I just have to add a little bit here and a little bit there. My preference is seed mixes with things like mealworms. I've tried the bunny food. This is, if Zooplus does this, and that you can get your Chipsy Classic from there. The other thing is that pets at home shavings are not safe. Okay, the only shavings or sawdust which is shavings is Chipsy, and it has to be Chipsy Classic. None of the other ones are safe. And I do use that because it's about $5.99 for 2 big bags, which means I can fill up my bedding quite a lot. I also buy Who Grow hemp, but that will then, I mix that in because that doesn't create good enough tunnels, but that's great for odor control. But this, okay, so this is the Syrian one, but you do get a premium. This is basic, but I would suggest the premium. I didn't realize you got basic and premium, so I just bought this one, and now I've learned. You can get it with Zooplus, and I would suggest, if you were going to buy a sort of a main name brand one, go for this. Okay, and you can get it off Zooplus here in the UK, and you can get a really rich bedding, so that's great. And they deliver it. Like I said, so she's got lots of place to burrow. Burrowing is also a natural need for them. It's a requirement. If they don't have it, they need at least 15 centimeters, but I absolutely recommend at least 25. Some hamsters won't even start before then. If they aren't burrowing, keep it there. Next time when I do Mr. Bullets, I'm probably going to do a little bit of a change up again, but like hers, just for the bedding sake. Just keep at it, keep it there, so that when they're ready to do it, they will do it. Like I said, she never, when they came, these hamsters came, they didn't know what a mealworm was. They didn't eat them. she didn't figure out that that sunflower thing was food. And that's good, because it means that this is enrichment for her. She's learning new things all the time. Picking seeds of all the different sprays. That moss is completely safe. And it's not cheap to set up, I'm going to be honest. The cage is, and I'll show you what the top looks like in a minute. In fact, I'll pop her in it so you can see her in it, just because, you know, you'll get a cute hamster video then. But basically what you do is you take the cage, you take the top of it, and you just cut the top out. And then you can get some mesh for, and it costs like £4 in Wilko, or you can get it off Amazon. I got the 6mm separation one, that was £15, but you can get the £4 one from Wilko. Literally cut it to size, hot glue it on top, and then I just stuck some Gorilla Tape on top just to keep it in place, and that's it. And that way it can be all the way to the top. So you're using as much space as possible, giving as much depth as possible. The more depth you give in these, that more space she has, because they do go down, and you definitely need at least 20 centimeters of substrate, I'd say, although this is 15 centimeters on the side. Now, for a Campbell's Dwarf, what would I do? I would do very similar to this, but I would probably give a third of sand. I would consider doing a soil bowl, a bit like Bullet's got. The reason Winter doesn't have it is because she is a little monkey, and I've had to take quite a lot of things out of this enclosure to keep her safe, as I've learned. So she wasn't very happy with me the first week, where I would have left her a lot more to feel safe, because she literally started digging. She dug a massive pit under that big heavy terracotta bowl, and if it had gone on her, she would have been squashed. But you know, you could easily put it up on in here. I would always, that's what this was for, put a little bendy bridge on. Make sure if you've got a bendy bridge that you cover all the gaps. There's a little gap there I'm going to have to actually cover, but she doesn't use this, it's a bit too high for her, so she never goes on it. But that's not safe. And this is the beauty of having things. I use sphagnum moss usually, but this is the beauty of having little bits, because you can literally use them to stuff closed any gaps. So, you know, and it looks pretty. You gotta admit, that looks pretty. Most of these things in her enclosure, and I know this is a half an hour video, but you know, this is kind of educational. Most of the things in Winter's enclosure are from Amazon or Zooplus, or that little puzzle thing there is a Living World puzzle. That's like £3 off Amazon. This is more expensive. Zooplus will sell it to you. I'm not overly keen on Zoopluses. But yeah, you know, you could get that off Zooplus. I got that off Roadie Pet. And if you decide to get the granite hide like Bullets, which I'll send you a video of him checking out his just cleaned enclosure. Nothing was really changed in his too much. Have a go at that. Now, she hasn't had a go to Whimsy. I've still got it in there. Bullet likes his. And it lasts them ages, to be honest, on mine. But that's because they've got loads to do. So that's the enclosure. That is a happy hamster's enclosure, because there is loads for her to do. And because everything's clean, I can leave her for 3 days and she'll settle into it again. Very importantly, when you clean out their enclosures, so because there is so much substrate in here and in Bullets, they can go a good 3 months at least without changing. Every week I sieve out the sand, because that's where they poop, and Bullet pees in one corner and it all clumps together, and so I use a little tea strainer that I've got for them, and I sieve it all out. But like I said, today I did a lot more with hers, but I just wanted to show it to you. This little hide actually has her name on it. It's so cute. You can't see it, but there, see, it's got a name on it. I'm not very good at videoing. But yeah, you couldn't see it from where it was, but it's very cute. But because of, you know, and some of these things she's going to have to do a little bit of work to get around them, but, you know, she's a dwarf. Syrian, I wouldn't have it quite as cramped as this, but for a dwarf, I think this is a good, and certainly for Robo. Robos are a bit smaller, which you'll see in a minute. She weighs all of 20 grams, so 25 grams, so she's tiny. But I'm going to get it out in a minute, and then I'm going to video it, and I'll send you that as well. So that's my educational video for you. Half an hour in how to keep your hamster a happy hamster. Fresh food, I give a couple of times a week and give her only an ear-sized piece. Broccoli, carrot is good. Dwarves, you don't really want to be giving fruit to. Okay, so Robos don't really get diabetes, but you have a hybrid dwarf. And by the way, the coconut soil that we're talking about, you put it in a bowl. I mean, you could just use like a little Pyrex. This is used for something else that's got stuff in it, but you could use a little Pyrex. I don't recommend plastic for hamsters at all. Plastic hides are too hot for them. Another thing that you can do, because hamsters overheat in the summer, oddly enough, is use a mug, stick it in, have a couple of mugs in your refrigerator or your freezer, and then pop them out and then pop them in the cage in the summer so that they've got something cool to go. And this is the coconut stuff I was talking about that you can actually use as soil. You can't just use normal fertilized soil, okay? Please don't. So it's the Komodo Natural Substrate, and I just Google coconut soil. And this is the one that I use. Okay. And I've got some more actually, because my Syrians are going to have soil areas. So that's that. You could even, what you could do is, if you decided to have a sand area like that, and you decided to half, what you could do is you could get a bit fancy. Try put the wheel on the side, so when they're running, they don't feel exposed at you watching them like that. But you could corner off a piece here with just some cardboard and then make that soil. I'm going to actually do that with my Syrians. And yeah, as you see, if you look down here, you see there's lots of flowers. There's a little bean, there's some oat seeds. This is just normal food. There's some tiny seeds in here that come as part of her food. Please don't buy the cheap Pets at Home stuff or anything like that. The bunny feed is the cheapest one that I would get. And that's that. That is Miss Winter's Enclosure and your crash course on proper hamster care. If you need any help or where to get stuff, it doesn't have to cost a fortune. This didn't cost an absolute fortune. Did it cost as much as the Pets at Home thing that you got? No, it cost quite a lot more than that. But the reality of it is that she's a lot happier. Like I said, this forage and stuff costs a fortune to get, okay, when you buy it. But most of this has been in her enclosure for the last 6 weeks and will remain in her enclosure. This oat stuff will remain for as long as I reckon could be there a year. You know, it gives a nice look. It gives her some forage, but they just don't gorge in it. She did gorge on her red millet, and I don't mind that because I just give her, she doesn't have any more. So the millet is that stuff there, right, which they love. The red one, that's what it looks like. But that means that she was a busy girl for a few nights, and yeah. So for anybody thinking about Robo or Dwarf, this is what I would do. And I would totally use one of these if you are thinking, oh, but I can't afford one of the big cages. Barred cages are not my favourite. I don't recommend them. At all. And then what I'll do is I'll just quickly show you before I put it in. Sorry, winter, but you're going to be woken up in a minute anyway. If you see a little mess, sorry. So that's the lid. As you can see, all I did was I cut out that. I used Dremel. I stuck on the wire once I'd cut it with a wire cutter. I'm not a DIY at all. I hot glued it on top so that underneath she couldn't get to any rough bits. And I put this on. It's safe because you can clip this so they can't push it open. It's big. You can watch them through here. They don't bar climb, which is unsafe. And mine have never ever tried to even do this because they've got so much. The thing you want to think about is hamsters do not need ledges and height. They need flat space. And so yes, this is two different heights, but it's essentially one flat area across. And they don't need lots of different ledges. That doesn't include in where they run. They need to be able to run straight across at least 80 by 50. So would I recommend this? I would. This is my go-to for something that's really affordable, and essentially this is going to cost you a £33. I think it cost me £36 with same day delivery for the enclosure, for the box, and then I did add that on, but you don't have to do that. And then you could do this from Wilko for £4, or you can order it off Amazon slightly more expensively. I made the choice to use this because of small little holes, but you do need to have at least this amount of airspace. Okay, that's really important. You don't need any more than that. They can't bar climb, which is unnatural. Hamsters are not climbers. They do not need to bar climb, and it's actually a bad behavior. It's a stress behavior. Do my hamsters dart quite fast? Yeah, if you watch Bullet, you'll see some of his darting, but they don't pace up and down. Other things you need to watch with your Campbells, well, you've got a hybrid dwarf. Some idiot decided to crossbreed two different species. So they've got lots of health problems, and they're badly bred generally. So what you want now, yours is a baby, so you need to think about when you get the wheel, making sure that it's quite flat on the ground, closer to the ground, which is why I actually think a Trixie might be good for yours, not this. You need to think about all of this would be safe for a baby, to be honest. I wouldn't do anything different. If you can't, I mean, that coconut hide you can get easily from Amazon. If it's got a hole, which this one actually has got, I just stuffed some moss in there, in the hole, so they don't get their feet caught, which is something you need to watch out for. You could put a coconut hide in here, instead of, she never had a coconut hide at all. There's some other hides that you can get, but they're not bottomed. They've got a bottom to them. It's a seagrass hide, and they're quite nice actually. You could get that. Get rid of the plastic rubbish stuff. They're not great for them. They get really sweaty in them. No tubes. They do not need them. They don't want them. And they tend to actually get caught in them, and they're very hot, and they sweat, and they overheat in them. So please don't. You can also get a piece of tile and turn it over so the back side of the tile, ceramic tile, is up, and you can use that as a place for them to cool down on, but also that's rough, so you could put that on a corner somewhere and put like their water bottle on it or something to do, and that is really great for them to lie on to cool down, but it also trims their nails, because if that doesn't happen, you have to generally, unless you experience it, you generally have to take them to the vet to get their nails done and their teeth if you don't give enough gnawing. So lots of gnawing bits. I do offer the walnut hole to start, but I'm busy teaching them they can actually get through to it. But even that, just loads of bits. All of this will, because it's like, and like I showed you, the coconut stuff in here, that'll wear down their nails. The sand wears down their nails a lot when they dig. Naturally, the stones dig it. So all of that. give them an opportunity. Now, if they don't use the sand quite like everybody else does, mine still don't. They never had an opportunity. They were living in a travel container. Literally, the container I'm going to take Winter out of in a minute is what they were living in. So they never had an opportunity. So they don't fully roll in them that I've seen. They might do it at night, but I haven't seen them do it. But they love to dig. And mine do spend a massive amount of time down in the sand. And especially for the summer, it's lovely and cool. So I would recommend at least a third, if not a half sand, even for Campbell's Dwarf. She's young. She could easily have that amount of space there to do that with, and then just spend her time down here. Or you might find if she really loves her digging or her burrowing, you can extend it slightly, maybe make it a third. You could halve it. You could have half sand, half soil. Yeah. Okay, so half an hour became 40 minutes. That is your crash course in hamster care.